I was walking down a long hallway toward the exit. There was, and it was just as, I mean, if I put my hands out on either side, that's how wide it was.
Wow.
I saw what looked like the shadow of a man just step out from one side and go to the other, and then he went back again. And I said, all right, wait a minute. I thought I was alone. And then I thought, okay, there must be, my default is always explain it away. Because if you can explain it away, you should.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I'm looking and I'm like, no, I kept going. There's no side tunnel. It's just straight all the way to the end. And I just went, oh, if that's not a ghost, I don't have another word. And then I thought about my last name. It's Belanger. But over there, it's pronounced Belanger, right?
Yeah,
it is a French name, even though my family's been here for like 4 generations now.
Sure.
But I'm like, my DNA's down here somewhere, right? Like, it's in some of these bones somewhere, somehow. There's strands or something. And I just thought it was one of those things where it took weeks to like fully sink in. Because at that point, I'd interviewed hundreds of people about their ghost experiences. And I was sort of took the position like, well, I believe that you believe. I'm not going to call you a liar. I wasn't there, but I don't know. But once I had that experience, I went, I just lost an awful lot of objectivity here today.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm a believer. I admit it. I'm still skeptical, plenty skeptical. However, I've had a few, that was the first, and I've had a few experiences where I go, all right, I got nothing. If that's not paranormal, then I lack another word to explain what it is that I experienced.
Well, hey everybody, welcome back.
Hey everyone.
This is Generation X Paranormal. I'm Logan.
And I'm Nicole.
Guys, we have got a heck of a show for you.
Yes, we do.
Every one of our guests have been just amazing. I love all our guests. I mean, we've had some amazing people, and today is absolutely no different. We have arguably one of the, if there is a forefather of the paranormal, he's one of them. He's been doing it for so long, and of course, we're talking about Jeff Belanger. So what can you tell us about Jeff?
Jeff Belanger is an author, podcaster, storyteller, adventurer, and explorer of the unexplained. He's written more than a dozen books that have been published in 6 languages. He served as a producer, writer, and researcher on numerous television series, including every episode of Ghost Adventures. He's an Emmy-nominated host, writer, and producer of the New England Legends series on PBS and Amazon Prime. He also hosts the award-winning New England Legends weekly podcast, which has garnered over 6 million downloads since its launch. He's a publisher of Shadow Zine, a new monthly paranormal magazine.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, this is going to be great, and let's just talk to Jeff.
Let's talk to Jeff.
Well, hey, Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing great. Welcome to Generation X Paranormal.
I'm in the right place. I am Generation X.
Yes. As a matter of fact, in doing some of our crack investigative work.
You did investigative work on crack?
Oh, well, yes, but I don't think this is the podcast for that. But anyway.
Okay, fair. But, crack is whack, as our people would say.
Crack is whack.
I've heard that for years, and it's probably true.
They don't say it anymore.
No, they don't.
They don't say whack. I mean, throw away a good thing.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
But anyway, I found out we're probably only, I think, a month apart in age. So it was kind of cool.
You're that old.
I am that old. I am.
Thing.
Yeah, same to you. It sucks, but it's okay. I don't mind it. There's some good parts to it too. But yeah, kind of just rolling into everything. Obviously, anybody who's probably listening to this knows a good portion of what you've done in the past and things of that nature. But I think the one thing that a lot of people don't get a sense of, and I'm probably gonna put you on the spot a little bit here, but you meet a lot of people and you go through a lot of these things, and you're just a genuine guy. And I think I appreciate that so much because, yeah, seriously though, you look at like 30 odd minutes when, things are just sort of in the beginning or sort of, some time ago, right to when we met at Missouri Paracon. I mean, you're just kind of the same guy all the way through. And it's so appreciated. I just wanted to let you know that.
I don't really know how to be anything else, Logan, but
yeah,
but thanks, I guess,
For sure.
it's 30 odd minutes. Boy, that's black. You know what's funny? We take it for granted. This is 30 odd minutes, right? But I was doing it at a cable access station.
I know.
Bubble gum and duct tape. There was no StreamYard. There was no Zoom.
Yeah.
We had tin cans and wire, and it was wild. I went into this local cable access station, and I said, hey, I want to try to figure this thing out. Because the reality is, any town's cable access station has, at any given time, 4, sometimes 5 viewers, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, maybe.
Right.
I'm being generous,
Sure.
If it's like ratings sweep week,
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're asking someone to come on a show that's going to reach 4 people, you could literally go to a grocery store and just yell, I've got a new book out, right? And you're going to reach more people.
Right.
So then I said, all right, how can we do this? How can we do this thing where we get it online and we do it? Fine, you can do it locally, sure, but I'm only going to reach 4 people locally. But how do we do this thing? And so myself and this young guy that worked at the cable access station, they had a green screen. We had a laptop. We had Skype. And we were figuring out a way to get the laptop into the broadcast system and then up on the screen. And then I would look at like a pretend point, just like a weather person, telling the news.
Yeah.
And we rigged that thing like you wouldn't believe. Like it was
It's so cool.
It was bubble gum and duct tape.
I'm
And we
sure then
somehow
it was...
made it work.
Oh,
and then we
yeah.
gave the show to like every other cable. There was a service called PEG Media, which is public education and government and whatever. You could upload it for free and anybody could download it for free. So we were on like 200 public access stations around the country.
Wow.
And then it was on YouTube and then it was streaming live. And so all that together was like an audience, a real audience,
Yeah,
Right.
and
sure.
and it was so much fun. And now you young kids take it for granted when you just turn on your StreamYard or your Zooms and you're like, oh, look at us. We got a green screen background. Oh, we did all that with like paint and, Foley artists and stuff.
Right. Oh, Foley. Gosh, man. That's
But anyway, but that was a great time. And I got to talk to so many cool people. Some of them were my friends. Some were people I didn't know. And it was like a paranormal talk show video before anyone else could do it. And now everybody does it. But it was a lot of fun.
do.
But thanks for mentioning it. That was a blast.
Oh, for
from
sure.
The past.
Yeah, we watched a few.
Yeah, we've watched a few. And I think what cracks me up is just now look, I'm sure at the time it was like, it was really hectic and it was, probably stressful. But looking at it now, I'm like, it's so cool because it's so like retro and it's so,
It is,
it's all the things that I remember, growing up. So it's like,
takes you back.
yeah,
for
it takes
sure.
you back. So it's really cool. But
So one more thing, like, how could you not be down to earth when you're at a cable access station,
Right.
like toggling switches with your feet, right? And
exactly.
like, the old guy that's going to be yelling at a fern on the stage, his show's up next.
Right.
Between two ferns.
It's pretty easy to stay humble. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Sure. I get it. I do.
So.
I really do. But no, it's really cool. And we love the fact, can you bring in your family involved? Like we watched the Dave Schrader Cinco de Mayo thing where Sophie's painting your face.
It was so cute.
Oh,
She is
man,
so
that's
cute, by the way.
hilarious.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
yeah. So yeah, we're big fans. It is what it is.
Wasn't that was a COVID thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
I
was.
believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, those days.
So, my daughter's older now. I mean, she's about to graduate high school, but it's funny how when we did that, we were just like, what do we do? People like Dave, people like me, if we don't have an audience, we'll die.
Right.
Do you understand? We'll die without an audience.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, Dave, what do we do just to do anything? He's like, I don't know. Let's have our kids put makeup on us on Zoom or something. I'm like, fine. whatever.
It was cool.
It was really awesome. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, and it was a lot more. It was interesting how they were trying to pitch questions, and you're like, "Well, I can't look," so it was like from behind, and it was just hilarious.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to get into the paranormal stuff and all that here in a second. But there is one thing that I know Nicole and I want to ask you, because it is so beyond paranormal, and honestly, for me, it's like, wow, how did you do that? But Kilimanjaro, man, jeez,
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, yeah. If you don't mind, just take a couple seconds, kind of what got you to that point, and wow.
yeah. So I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in 2017, and I've always been a hiker ever since college, and Kilimanjaro was on my bucket list because it's one of the 7 summits, it's the tallest summit in Africa. And I love the song Gen X, right? I love the song Africa by Toto.
Absolutely.
Growing up, just sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti. And so that was part of it. And then it's also one of the tallest mountains that's not a technical climb, which means you're not hanging by ropes or anything. Like there's a path where you can just, if you can hoof it, you can get yourself to the top.
Right.
So it was on my list, and then in 2015, my brother-in-law Chris, he got sick with cancer, and he went through a dying process that was over 2 years. And during that time, he and I got a lot closer to each other, because he's like, "Man, you're into some weird stuff." And I said, "Yeah, that's true." And he said, "And I'm going through something pretty weird." I said, "No, that's true too." And so we talked about this thing, dying, death, I mean, and when you're talking about the paranormal, that is the elephant in the room, right? It's really what we're talking about, truly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a critical part of the equation. So Chris and I talked a lot. We got a lot closer, and as he declined, it was really special, and I'm forever grateful to him for that. And by the time he passed, I just remember it was such a blow to my family. My nephew was 5 at the time, his son, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this could happen to anybody.
Yeah.
6 months later, I was doing a charity event, a historic fundraiser at a historic home, and a woman I know from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, she said, "Hey Jeff, we got another fundraiser coming up," and I was like, I've helped them in the past, and I was like, all right, if I can help, I will. What's going on? She said, "We're going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro to raise money for cancer." And I just went, oh, and it was like in a movie, where all the action for all the characters stops except the 2 talking.
Yeah,
that's what happened. Like everything froze, and the record scratched, and I'm like, did you say Kilimanjaro to raise money for cancer research, and I just went, oh, well, when is it? And she said it would be March 2017. And I said, oh, that's a good time of year for me. If it's October, if it's fall, there's no way I could do it. And I went, I'm in. I've got to do this. And so we trained, we raised money, we did it, and then it was 6 days to the top, to 19,341 feet. And it was absolutely life-changing. It was deeply spiritual, especially at the end. It was amazing to be unplugged, no Wi-Fi, no internet, no phones. Day 1 is just stressful. What if someone needs me? And day 2, you're just like, all right, well, the world's going to keep spinning whether I'm on my email or not.
Right.
And then to get that unplugged, and then that connected to like myself and to something much bigger. And it was profound. That's just all I can say. It was, and by the time we made for the summit, watching this sunrise, from high above the clouds, the cloud bank just way below you, and seeing this golden sun come up. And there's a Swahili term for the top, which means, where the house of God, or where God dwells, because they believe only those that God deems worthy is allowed up there. And I felt Chris at that moment, and I felt this incredible connection that I will never, ever forget. In fact, I got a tattoo of it. It's the only tattoo I have. It's the only thing I felt like, marking my body up permanently for.
Well, yeah.
So far, I wouldn't rule out another, but
right.
Also, but it was just but it was so deeply spiritual. And I just came back a different person, and
That's
I'll
so
never forget it. I still kind of sort of want to do it again.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. So,
and I know you wrote a book about it, and it is definitely on my short list of things I want to read. It was a college.
He dies at the end. Oh no, he doesn't. No,
No,
he made
you
it
better
back.
not, because otherwise I am talking to a full
Yeah, that would be
body
amazing.
apparition, you know. But but no, we definitely wanted to check it out, and you know, obviously you've gone to some great places. I know you travel, you do some adventuring, and I know you've been to Machu Picchu, which mega jealous.
Yeah,
and,
no kidding.
And the Paris Catacombs, and I guess I read that was your first ghost experience. What happened?
So I'd been writing about ghosts for 6 years when I went to Paris. I started ghostvillage.com in 1999, and I'd already been writing about ghosts since 1997. And then I was working in a whole other field, a whole other world, and they sent me to Paris for work. So we had a day to ourselves, and some of my colleagues were like, we're going to go to the Louvre and check out the, Mona Lisa or whatever. You want to go? And I was like, I'll catch up with you later. I'm going underground. And so Paris is beautiful. It's an incredible city. It sprawls. It's not a tall city at all.
No.
It just goes out forever in the distance.
Yep.
And there's all these great limestone buildings. And to get to that limestone, eventually they had to tunnel under the city. And as they tunneled and the city got denser and bigger, they had two problems. The cemeteries that were on the outskirts were now no longer on the outskirts. They were encircled, and there was no more room for the dead. They were just piling up corpses in these boneyards. And the buildings were starting to collapse into the hollow ground underneath. So they had to shore it all up, empty the cemeteries, which is, a universal taboo.
Sure.
So I go down there, it was about 10:30, 11 in the morning, sound, mind, and body, sober, the whole thing.
Right.
And I go down there, and I'm the only one down there. It's very quiet.
Really?
It's just water dripping through the limestone. It's completely silent. And I get to this doorway that says in French, stop, this is the Empire of the Dead. And then when I walked through, there was millions of human skeletons all around me. And I just got the heebies and the jeebies at the same time. And then eventually you start to calm down. It's sort of beautiful, right? I mean, the intricacies of the bones and the design. And I'm walking around and I'm going, all right, there's signs that tell you where the bones came from. And then as I was walking down a long hallway toward the exit, it was just as, if I put my hands out on either side, that's how wide it was.
Wow.
I saw what looked like the shadow of a man just step out from one side and go to the other. And then he went back again. And I said, all right, wait a minute. I thought I was alone. And then I thought, okay, there must be, my default is always explain it away.
Right.
If you can explain it away, you should.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I'm looking and I'm like, no, I kept going. There's no side tunnel. It's just straight all the way to the end. And I just went, oh, if that's not a ghost, I don't have another word. And then I thought about my last name. It's Belanger. But over there, it's pronounced Belanger, right?
Yeah,
It is a French name, even though my family's been here for like 4 generations now.
Sure.
But I'm like, my DNA's down here somewhere, right? Like, it's in some of these bones somewhere, somehow. There's strands or something. And I just thought it was one of those things where it took weeks to like fully sink in. Because at that point, I'd interviewed hundreds of people about their ghost experiences. And I was sort of took the position like, well, I believe that you believe. I'm not going to call you a liar. I wasn't there, but I don't know. But once I had that experience, I went, I just lost an awful lot of objectivity here today.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm a believer. I admit it. I'm still skeptical, plenty skeptical. However, I've had a few, that was the first, and I've had a few experiences where I go, all right, I got nothing. If that's not paranormal, then I lack another word to explain what it is that I experienced.
Oh, 100%. I mean, but talk about one of the very first places
experience,
you get to
I
go
know.
is the catacombs in Paris. I mean,
What was your first? I want to know.
Mine was in San Antonio.
Oh.
So it was about as far from Paris
In the
as you can
basement of the
get.
Alamo with Pee-wee's bike?
Yeah. I can't do the voice. But no, I was driving back, and she knows this already, but I was on a date with somebody else, and it was a long time ago. But we were coming back, and
That hussy.
I know. Like I care. It was forever
if she's
ago.
listening, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But
Don't
but
call
we're
me.
please don't.
No, go on. Sorry.
It's okay. We're driving, and we see go across the freeway from one spot to another. And I'm using my hands here, so those who are listening are going to love this. But from left to right, we see at first what I thought was like a a Glad bag, like I guess basically like a trash bag.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of floating in the wind, kind of doing its thing. And I'm like, as we got closer, I'm like, that is not a garbage bag.
Yeah.
It was about as much of a shadow kind of conglomeration that went across. And when it got to the side where the shoulder is to get off the freeway, poof, gone.
Ooh.
And I looked at the person I was with and said, and before I could even utter the word, she goes, "Did you see that?" And I'm like, "Oh, 100% I saw that."
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, that was one of those. You're right. And I was in the Army at the time, and you're just like, you know, you're gonna rationalize everything, and that had nothing, absolutely nothing.
And the fact that someone else is there is so helpful, right? Because if you were alone, you could just go, I don't know. But someone else saw the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to offer you my professional opinion on what it is you saw. Demon.
I mean,
I wasn't there. Know. I have no idea, but I'm going with demon.
It's a demon.
Let's start there.
Rubber stamp. Demon. It is.
All right, Nicole, your turn. We're sharing.
Okay, so I don't know how old I was. I'm going to guess between 6 and 8.
Okay.
But I grew up in a haunted house, and my mother saw a lot of stuff. But the first thing that I can actually remember, and it stuck with me because it was terrifying, is in my bedroom, I had a very long, dark, deep closet. Like a narrow, it was all like dark wood on the inside, and it had just like the swingy light.
Oh yeah, perfect.
You know, the one that's in every home. Yeah. But it was
those
open.
Are like $5 to replace. But go on. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. But I woke up one night and I just felt like something drawing me towards the closet in my bed, and I could see it just from across the room. And I hated that closet growing up. Like I never wanted to look at it. I always turned away from it while I was sleeping. But that night, for some reason, I turned and looked. And from the back of the closet, there was a face that just came forward that looked like my aunt at the time. And it was smiling at me. And as it got closer, it went faster. And then the grin turned into kind of like the Grinch's grin, where it's kind of like, and then it just turned evil. And the eyes were red and like these teeth came out, and it just like rushed at me. And I remember like throwing the covers back and screaming and running out of the room to my parents. Yikes. And that has stuck with me forever.
Okay, my professional opinion on that one, Babadook. I'm just kidding. It's a demon
for mine.
It's a demon. No, that's, oh my God, that's scary. That's like horror movie stuff.
Oh,
yes.
Like Amityville type stuff.
Yeah,
and,
that's
it's just
really frightening.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder you turned out okay.
Yeah, of course. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah, we do what we do. We're searching.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's for sure why.
Yeah, that's crazy. No, boy, you'll never forget that, especially when you're young and impressionable and
Oh, I can still see the face. Yeah.
I'm a DIYer. Like replacing those dangling, scary horror movie light bulbs would cost you like $5 for like a little thing, and it's nothing, and it's an easy job to do yourself. Just hit the breaker and do it.
I would never even walk in that closet. I remember when I was forced to clean my room and put stuff away, I just stand about 5 feet away and throw stuff.
Why is your closet so messy, Nicole?
Makes
Mom, do you know what's in there?
That's funny. Yeah.
It was creepy.
That is creepy. Wow. Thanks for sharing.
It's interesting how these experiences kind of just usher you into this world. It's amazing. And you're 100% right, because I'm more the skeptic. She's more, I wouldn't say the believer, but I'm definitely the more skeptic. And I immediately, something happens, I'm Occam's razor. I'm in there going, okay, it's got to be, and knowing her family, knowing everything that had happened, it's one of those where you're like, of course that happened. There's no way to, that knowing the validity behind it was not a question. It's just like, wow, what in the world could that have been? It's just wild. It is absolutely wild. But listen, getting on to kind of some of the stuff that you got going after 30 odd minutes.
Which was like 2007, by the way.
Yeah, it's quite some time ago.
Almost 20 years, yeah.
God, that's just wild. It's that long. So New England Legends, and it's amazing. There's 2 Emmy nominations behind it, so we know it's amazing. But what a great place to be. And I know you're from there, to have that rich a history. What kind of led you down that road? Was it just to kind of bring up that history so other people could kind of get to know it? So
when I first started in this, like, my my website was global, and I was in Paris and had my first ghost experience. And my first book was in 2004. It was called The World's Most Haunted Places. And I picked haunts mainly from English speaking countries because that's where I could interview people, but all over the world. I'm like, I got to be global. I got to be global. And then I was asked to write this book called Weird Massachusetts back in 2006. And it was part of the Weird US series. And it was so much fun. And I'm like, I fell into the trap, the horrible trap that every one of us falls into, thinking all the cool places are somewhere else and somewhere far from me, right? It's not true, right? You live somewhere very far from most of us, you know, and you have really cool places in your own backyard. And it's embarrassing when you're like, I didn't even go there because I figured it would always be there. It's a half hour from my house. Why would I go? You'd go because it's cool. You'd go because it's amazing and it's got a great story. So once I started popping around Massachusetts and doing what I do all over the world, but doing it near home, I was like, wow, and I could get in deeper around here, you know, and not have to pay for hotel rooms and all that other stuff.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so that was part of it. And then I was part of a documentary called Things That Go Bump in the Night for PBS. And I met this producer and we discovered we were born in the same hospital, like a month apart. And, you know, and then we both love these stories. And I said, how cool would it be to do like a series of this, like where we just cover these weird stories around New England? And so that's how it started. It started as a TV project. We got no funding. It was literally just us, our Visa cards, and then our friends, like borrowing and stealing whatever we could. Like literally like, hey, could you come run sound for us for a day? Could you compose this piece of music for us or whatever? Like just begging our friends.
Right.
And we got nominated for an Emmy.
That's awesome.
And we were like, can you imagine how short our acceptance speech would be?
I'd like to thank me.
I'd like to thank like the 5 people who worked on this and no one else, right? All of us, you know, like, awesome. I mean, it was a short list. So, but it was really, really cool to like, cause you know, I was working on Ghost Adventures at the time, which is great. And I'm proud to be part of that, but I'm a cog in the wheel there. That's not my baby, right? I'm just an employee. But this was just like, hey, we don't answer to anybody. It's whatever we think is best we do. And it was just cool to tell those stories. And the podcast rolled out of that because it takes so long and it's so expensive to produce television. Oh, sure. You need insurance just to be standing on a location. It was like $300 for insurance. And I'm like, so what does this cover? Like if we break a camera? Oh, no, that doesn't cover that. Well, if we break the location, no, it doesn't cover that. I'm like, well, what if we get hurt? It covers that? No, it doesn't cover that. I'm like, what am I insuring?
You're right.
I still don't know. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. And I did it like 7 times. I paid for that policy. And I still have, but we had to have proof of insurance. I'm like, okay, great.
That covers nothing.
Covers nothing.
Congratulations. I have no idea what this does.
Yeah, no idea, except it cost us like hundreds of dollars. Then I have nothing to show for that. So the podcast was great because, you know, we had theater of the mind and we could go even more, you know, we could cover more stories. And then from there, it just really sort of grew. And what's been great is that the stories are crowdsourced now. So we have such a great audience. I get emails almost daily that's just like, hey, have you heard about this weird well in Maine where like the kid went down and came back and never spoke again? And, you know, and I'm just no, what is that? You know, and then there's your next story. And it's been so much fun to do what I do, but do it near home. And so that's really what it came down to. And then I do a lot of speaking engagements and it's just kind of easier to get around near where you live. So that's part, you know, because you know, when you're flying somewhere, you lose a day, you know, your day of travel there, a day of travel back. And I love this stuff. The only thing I love more than the subject is sharing it, you know, like when you get to share it in front of an audience, when you get to talk to people about their experiences, and you realize there's these through lines, right, that just kind of go through every person, every community, every place, and every weird subject. And it's such a unique way to kind of look at this human experience.
100%.
And so, convenience is my main reason. I'm biased. I love where I live. I love to travel. I will go absolutely anywhere and adore that. But, you know, this is home.
Right.
Yeah, and you're right. I think we are within a stone's throw of probably about, 10 places that I know people are like, gosh, you really need to go out there and look at that thing. And I'm like, well, we haven't We've gone other places. We've gone to like Jerome, Arizona, but not here. So, but yeah,
it's
you're
terrible.
Right.
Like you should be ashamed.
I am. And there's a 12-step
ashamed.
program out there for me, I'm sure. But
yeah. But like do that thing you do close to home. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Because not only that, here's the really cool thing. When you're really local, like there's a trust with local people. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed. Yes.
Like when you go into Boston, if I start, if I have a beer and start dropping my eyes a little bit, like
Sure.
oh, you're one of us. Come on in. I'll get you into the catacombs that we don't let anybody into.
Nice. Yeah.
And you're like, okay, now we're talking.
Yep.
Yeah. Did I see you at that bar in Southie? Yeah, let's go. Right?
Yes.
And,
absolutely.
And you're locals. You can talk the language. You might know some of the same people. And suddenly they're like, I'm not supposed to do this. But those are my favorite words in the English language. I'm not supposed to do this, but. And I'm like,
however,
stuff's going to get good now.
Access.
Come back after a while. We'll square things away.
Yeah. We can go in at midnight on the full moon and turn off the security cameras. I'm like, something's either going to be really good or really bad.
Really bad.
Or both. I mean,
both.
They can be, I mean,
either way, get your EMF meter out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just don't record anything.
Yeah. Something's going to happen.
For sure. No, you're right. And it's amazing. And New England is just one of those places where, and I tell people all the time that, our country's still really, really young in the overall global experience, but, it all kind of started there. So it's the more graduated, look at that. There's my 10. Anyway, I won't get into it, but it's the much more, people have been there longer. So it's going to have more history than, say, well, I'm from Tucson, Arizona, so you're going to have more information and more history there than you would in Tucson. So it's amazing. So I can only imagine, kind of the whole gamut of different things you can cover. And the fact that you have listeners and people who feel like they can be a part of it is just, that's awesome. Cause they get that kind of like that ownership feeling, like they feel that's also their show. So it's a different thing for them.
Yeah, no, the whole idea always, what I love about podcasting is that it's so intimate. You know what I mean? It's, I have a co-host, Ray. We've known each other for years. He's a radio guy. So he had me on his show and then our friendship evolved from there. And we always talk about, like, when we record our podcast, it's always just Ray and me and one other person. We always think about just one, right? We don't think about anything beyond that. We're just like, it's two people having a conversation and you're hanging out. And and we want you there with us. We want to make sure that you see what we see and feel what we feel. And when we travel through time, which is very painful, by the way. You go back 2 centuries every week and like see how you feel after. It's exhausting.
I'm sure.
My knees are already tired.
Yeah. So it's but we want you there with us in the tavern having a beer or whatever and overhearing this conversation and seeing how this thing happened and why the legend exists. And to me, I took this mystery writing class in college. It was so fun. I remember the teacher saying, he's like, look, this genre is super easy. You just write it backwards. That was like day one, right? I just basically gave you a semester of college right there. He's like, that's all you do. You have a crime, fine. And then you go backwards and now you have a motive. And then you got to go backwards and establish other suspects. And then you just go backwards and then just write it. That's it. And I was like, it's sort of easy. And then I thought about paranormal investigation. We do the same thing.
Yeah,
sure
we
do.
start with this building's haunted. Why? Well, because something happened here. What? Well, now we got to go backwards. And so we start at the end. It's haunted. And then we got to go backwards. We got to go back and say, well, who lived here? Who died here? Did anything tragic happen? What happened? Who's seen things? Then you go back and back and back as far as you possibly can. And then you tell it again to the front. I didn't invent that. Scooby-Doo does that, right? It's
right.
It's a tried and true formula, but I was like, that's what paranormal investigation is. And I think that's why it speaks to us,
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we Tarantino stuff all the time. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. You know, it's you're right. You got to build that history after the, okay, it's haunted, like you said, and okay, well, why? And it's that quest that's just. I think that's the fun part is the quest.
Absolutely.
Everybody always talks about, what if you prove that there was, a ghost. Well, I don't need to prove it. I already know it's there. I can feel it. I accept that. But even if you told me that, the journey to that point, I think, is the best part of it. I mean, that's the story. Like you said, learning the history. You look at, for example, we were at Missouri Paracon where we met, and sitting in the audience, you can see when you look around, there is just, you talk about different walks of life. You've got people from all over the place, from some that don't even speak the language, some that whatever religious beliefs, whatever have you. Talk about a global community, and it's just that fun, that journey that they get to go through. So it's just awesome. And I'm so happy to hear that that's kind of how it was shaping the show. That's awesome.
So what I love about Missouri Paracon was great. And as you know, a lot of them are like that, where you have people from all walks of life. I know this is going to sound so preachy and soapboxy, but I don't care. Sure. I think a ghost story could save us all.
I agree.
Yeah.
I truly. I think that, if we started talking about religion, we're going to fight. That's how it works. That's 100%. How religion works. We're going to fight. Yep. Even if you're the same religion, you're not quite the right brand, right?
Right.
Like, you could go to the same church and still fight,
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So that gets us all in a huff, and it divides us. But boy, if you talk about ghost stories, even skeptics who say there's no such thing as ghosts, you go, okay, no problem. Sit down and hear a story then. Okay, well, I like a good ghost story. Fine, then sit down and hear a good ghost story. The ghosts exist because we, the living, have unfinished business. Period. Right. I don't think the dead have any unfinished business. It's done. They're not paying taxes anymore, right? Yeah, business is concluded. Yes. Right, but we have unfinished business. An unsolved murder, unfinished, right? Someone got away with something years ago. We don't like that at all. I don't care how long ago it was. A horrible atrocity took place. A civil war battle, any war battle, right? That left thousands dead who just thought they were doing the right thing. That haunts us, where someone got lost and died. That haunts us. Yeah. And I think the most simple explanation that I can offer, which I think we've all experienced. You're driving home late at night on the highway. You're getting drowsy, and you pass a cross on the side of the road where someone put up a little memorial to someone who died doing exactly what you're doing right this very minute. And boy, does that wake you up. It haunts you just a teeny tiny bit, right? You go, ooh, right. Slap the face, turn up the radio, put the window down a little bit, wake up, right? You don't always get to the destination alive. And so I think that is the simplest definition of a ghost. It's the past coming to the present because we are still trying to reconcile something that happened. And if we can be haunted by history, if we allow the ghosts through, there's chances that we won't repeat the same damn mistakes over and over. It's a small chance because if you study history, we do make the same mistakes over and over and over again. But there's a chance. There's a better chance if we at least understand it. And if a ghost haunts someplace and makes enough of us ask why, and we find out the answer, maybe we can just grow as a people, And that's why I truly believe a ghost story could save us all if we let them haunt us.
Yeah. I mean, that's 100% accurate. I feel the same way. It's one of those things where it doesn't matter who you are, everybody gets touched by the paranormal. Ooh, that's a tagline somewhere.
Yeah.
Real quick though, I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Ghost Adventures. It's obviously been 25 years now, right?
17 years. 17 years this very month. Maybe this very day.
Wow.
Really?
When I got the call. Yeah.
Wow. I don't know why I got 25. Anyway,
probably feels like
I think it's 25 seasons.
I'm old.
Probably
that's what I'm thinking. 25 seasons. That's
but that doesn't always line up with years. But
right. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Okay, I feel better now.
Yeah.
What started? And I know you weren't there for the first part, the documentary, where they kind of, what was it, the Nevada.
The Goldfield and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But since then, I think you've been along for the ride for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Has that been something that's been just one of those labors of love that just kind of you get to kind of be a storyteller and you get to watch it sort of play out, sort of.
Well, so when it started, like you said, they did the documentary, and then the documentary served as a pilot. The Travel Channel bought it, and they were going to do 8 episodes. And Zach called me and said, hey, we know you know haunted places all over. We're looking for someone to help us with research, with writing, and finding witnesses that we can interview on camera. And I was like, cool, I've done this for newspapers, magazines, the web. I've just never done it for TV. Like, that's neat. It's just a different medium. And so it was neat to be there to like form a show. It's very difficult to form a show because you need to sort of develop a formula that becomes familiar to the audience, that they know what to expect, when to expect it. And so it was really cool. It was really neat, especially those early years. And then it was a hit, and they said, we got to do more, get back to work. And we did. And we pretty much haven't stopped since. So it was cool. But that is very much a team, and I'm a piece of it. And I give what I can give. But it's not my baby. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's my day job. Which, how cool is that? Like, that's my day job.
I know.
The rest books of us and other stuff is my my more passion projects. So, but it's still really cool. I love when we get a location and they're like, "All right, Jeff, it's all yours." And then I dig in and I find some nuggets and stuff that people may not have uncovered before, or I piece together the right people, and then what happens when they investigate is whatever happens. It's Zach's show, no question. I just try to give him pieces to work with.
That's so cool. Man, that's a great day-to-day job. I get to be a network engineer.
Hey, so we need that stuff running before they take it all down.
I know. Right. Gosh, they did that. I'd never sleep again. So I have to admit, what you've got going on right now is something that, and I'm going to be a little less cryptic here in a second. This guy right here, Shadow Zine.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have we had the pleasure of having you autograph it. So
look at that.
Better. Yeah, look at that. This is awesome, by the way.
Yeah,
this is so cool.
I love it.
Thank you.
I remember when I was a kid.
Yep.
And I know you'll understand this. You would go to like whether it was a convenience store or whatever, there was always a magazine, whatever you were into. There was literally a magazine for every flavor of the person out there. And you would see things like, of course, the Teen Beats and the Fangorias and stuff.
Teen Bop.
Yeah, the Teen Bops and stuff. But
Logan, which was your favorite Corey? Be honest.
I think I'm a Haim guy.
Haim?
Honestly.
Okay, yeah. Rip Haim, rip.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just being able to touch something, being able to pick a book up.
Yeah.
Right now it's a great time. Don't get me wrong. I love the technology. I love being able, like you said, to do the things that we do. It affords us the ability to do some things that was much, much harder, going back. But it's also kept us from some things that I think is sorely missing. Especially when it comes like the paranormal. I remember just getting like a Reader's Digest or like even like a National Geographic. I remember you'd see like the picture and there's like a skull there, and you're like, I got to figure out what the heck this is about. And you're reading it, and there was that connection between you and the print. That's really making me sound old. I know it.
No. Listen, go on. Don't stop.
But
let's push this through.
That's the whole thing that I think is so great about Shadow Zine is that you take and this is the first volume, and you take like you did the Bridgewater Triangle in this first one.
Yeah.
And there's so much history there.
So much,
I mean, I'm sure you had to take stories and not include it because it just would have been, you could go for days. But, you take this one topic and you give little nuggets of stories that people can digest. And you don't have to read the entire thing at one time. You can just kind of pick it apart. But it's filled with some really cool stuff. There's some humor in there. It's that connection to what you wanted us to know. And it really is. It's just one of those things that it's not a forgotten art, but it's something that I think is sorely missing.
So when I started in all this back in the 90s, I worked on zines. Like desktop publishing was still coming up. Photoshop, PageMaker and Quark. I don't even know if they make those anymore. But I was working on zines, I was working on newspapers, and desktop publishing came around in the 80s and 90s during a time when media was consolidating, right? Like radio stations were being owned by just a few companies. Newspaper companies were being owned by just a few companies. and they were really starting to control the narrative. The difference with print was that newspaper companies still had local reporters covering your local news. So there was hope. But then the late 90s came around and the internet came on. And we were like, zine publishers like me were like, this is great. Print is expensive. You got to pay for those, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And so the web, I was like, $80 a year and I can do anything, right? This is amazing. And so the web took off and it was the Wild West, right? I started a website called ghostvillage.com. We eventually had message boards with 50,000 members. We had so much content. It was absolutely massive. But then around 2010, something else happened. Social media blew up. Facebook and MySpace was first, right? And then Twitter came along and all these other things. And now my grave concern is that newspapers have all died. There is nobody covering local news in your town. In our country, corruption has always been from the top down. The people way high up are corrupt, but the local cop's not going to shake you down for like $20.
No.
But because you had the Fourth Estate. The Fourth Estate was the media. They did protect you. You can say whatever you want about them, but they did protect you from certain corruption, especially locally. Yep. Now, if your like planning and zoning person is just doing corrupt things to just benefit their personal business and not really caring about the town, how do you hear about it unless you go to town meetings? Raise your hand if you go to town meetings. Yeah, stop it. Nobody does. Not a hand up in the room. You know? And so suddenly we have this, we now live at a time where if you think about it, I would argue 90 to 95% of people spend their time on the internet on just 6 or so websites, right? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Truth Social, if you want, TikTok, YouTube, Reddit, right? I mean, jump in if I'm leaving anybody out, right?
I mean, X,
you've said more than I look at, so
so like, and that's not even 7 people that control all that. And they're dialing up and dialing it down politically and content wise. Like Facebook used to work. Like if I choose to follow you because I want to follow you, and you start putting up ad after ad for the stuff you're doing, your punishment is I unfollow you, right? Because I'm like, oh, he's just trying to sell me something at every turn. So I unfollow, and you go, well, gee, I better do something different, or people aren't going to follow me. Right. It just worked itself out naturally. Now, Facebook is deciding, what you just posted looks like an ad. You're going to have to pay for that. And so it's, which is fine. They got to make money too. I get it. But now I'm really scared that we are living in a time where the narrative is desperately trying to be controlled by a tiny handful of people. Sure. You know, stuff gets suppressed on the web. Google can decide what you find and don't find. So I'm like, I know this sounds a little conspiracy theorist, but print is real. You hold it in your hands. Exactly. And so I'm like, you know what? No AI, no ads. You pay for it. You buy the content. And I wrote the first one, sure. But, you know, Richard Estep wrote the second one. I'm going to have different authors writing each one. They're going to get paid for it. They're going to get a royalty on it. And we're going to produce these zines, which is how the paranormal started, right? We were producing zines. And so we're going back, and TV networks have canceled pretty much all the paranormal shows.
I know,
because they don't know what to do. They're not sure what they're doing, and so I'm like, you know what? If we're going underground, then good. Let's go back underground. I was happy there, you know. Like,
I agree.
I've got friends there, you know, landmarks I recognize, and so the whole idea is Shadow Zine is going to go back underground with print, traditional print through the mail. It can't be edited later. It can't be, you know, suppressed or whatever. It's just I answer to nobody but the reader, and that feels so good right now, in this world we're currently living in, you know, where you don't know what to believe or who to believe anymore, because the narrative changes every day. We're not at war with East Anglia. We're at war with West Anglia. I'm like, I've read this book long ago, 1984. And suddenly I'm just like, you know what? Print I think will save us. Doesn't need a battery, doesn't need sunlight. You can take it anywhere you go. That's right. And it's tangible, and it's user friendly, like for sure. So anyway, really that's my soapbox, and I'm trying it, you know, like let's see where this goes. And so I'm going back to very old school ideas, and here we are.
Well, and I think it's really needed, because not only do you get the, you know, and honestly, $10. I mean, it's like, it's really, I mean, if you go to stinking Starbucks and you order one coffee, here's your coffee. I mean,
yeah, it's gone.
And it's gone.
And then it's gone. You don't have
pay
it
it out.
anymore.
Right. And it's just, it's amazing to kind of see it back. And you're right. And it's that same cyclical, so I agree. Let's get this back out. And we've got Richard's on the way. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
But,
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah.
The response so far has been really good. Like
It's
people,
good.
I think people appreciate a couple things that like, I remember one woman said to me in Missouri, she said, I know you guys write books and it's great and I want to be supportive, but I don't have time for a book. If I have time for this is a little, a zine. And I'm like, all right, cool. Hey, whatever works for you. And I think that's great. I mean, I get it. I like reading short stuff too sometimes,
Yeah.
It's super fair too, because you never, either the folks that have, the affinity to pick up a book and read it.
Yeah.
And spend a lot of time with it. And that's one group of people, and that's great.
Yeah.
But there are definitely those folks that, they just want a piece. They just want a little bit, little nuggets. And
you want an appetizer. You don't want the whole meal.
Exactly.
Totally fine.
And it's awesome because I think the one thing that we're missing, and I've said this before, and I'll do my soapbox for like 2 seconds, but, in our time when we were growing up, information was so hard to get. You had to fight for information, whether it be a book, whether it be whatever medium you could find it. Whoever had the information won in the end. That was the thing. And unfortunately, a lot of it had to do with people of affluence had all the information, yada, yada, all that kind of stuff. But we have information just force-fed down our throats constantly. And like you said, the algorithm dictates what we're going to eat. And we're just going to consume it,
It's off. And not only that, like they know what gets you, right?
They do.
So they know
do.
what sport teams you watch and what'll get you clicking. They know what makes you mad and you'll click on it. They know what makes you happy and you'll click on it. Yeah. And they're feeding it to you to keep you there. And and the irony is, and I get it, I need social media to make my living. I need social media to get the word out. But at the same time, you ever go a day without it? Do you ever notice that weird feeling at the end of the day? It's called happiness.
Yes.
It's called calm. You know? When you're like, wow, I was just at the beach all day today, or I was at the lake just hanging out, you know, and you're suddenly like, huh, I forgot my phone. And once the jitters stop, you're like, wow,
this is great.
Sobriety ain't so bad.
I know.
You know?
It's so funny when TikTok went offline, our daughter literally had a complete meltdown.
Oh yeah.
And
It was
she's
bad.
just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, it's no big deal. We just put it away.
I was
It's no big
actually
deal.
really thrilled.
That was kind of nice. I mean, you're right. We all have to do it. It is something that, we've got our own social media. You're right. It's how you get the word out. But,
Sure.
But no, and I'm so glad you brought this medium back. And I don't want to say it was completely dead, but this form of it, it's like,
The magazine was gone.
the magazine was gone. And even when it was around before it completely had its swan song, it had started to kind of just become, I remember I got what was it? I think it was like a guitar magazine, and literally 2 pages was content. The rest was like ads and just like, it was garbage by that point. So, awesome.
So thank you. Yeah, no, I'm trying something here, and the good news is, like, I've been doing this so long. I'm friends with all the authors out there that are doing the same. We're all friends with each other, and so I'm just like, hey, you want to try something weird? And they're like, yes, let's try something weird.
Yeah.
And here's a little inside information. So I have a book coming out in September called Wicked Strange. It's a photo journey and a weird journey around New England, all kinds of stories that we cover in the podcast, ghosts, monsters, aliens, all the other stuff. It's available for pre-sale now. When you sign these literary contracts, there's a clause in there that says this will be your next book. Well, I signed that contract over a year ago, and so that's a year and a half where that has to be my next book. Anyway,
Wow.
this is a zine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Stick it to the man. Captain
so
Loophole strikes again.
Yep.
That's
There you
good
go.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, I mean, this is great. And I really want to urge our listeners and anybody out there, please pick this up and support it. It's just, this is where we need to go. We need to get back to this sort of thing. We need to get back to storytelling. We need to get back to actually know what the heck a story is. It's just, It's fantastic. And,
but
I
look,
really
I think we will. And I think what's happening right now is pushing everyone away, right? Because people are realizing how toxic it all is.
Oh, yeah.
And they're realizing, like, hey, what can I do that's real? You know what's real? Go out to your local haunts and check them out, and your local stories. Go into your own woods and look for Bigfoot or whatever it is that excites you. But do it. Don't like watch it in 30-second bursts on your phone.
Right.
Like go be active. Go jump into this life experience, because you'll be happier. And just ask yourself, am I happier now, or was I happier when I was on my couch looking at TikToks? You know? And I think you'll find the answer is overwhelmingly like, wow, when I get away from that and do things, I'm happier. And yeah, share the story. Storytelling is how we connect. We're so disconnected right now, which is the political climate we're in, you know? Like, did you ever post on social media like eating an orange? Well, of course you are. That's what you would do, you jerk.
It's just crazy.
Right? You're like,
social media,
yeah, you're just like, oh, I didn't think that was political. I was just eating an orange. You know, like, like chicken sandwich. Oh, figures. Like,
that's so true.
Like, oh man,
it's so sadly true.
Hide behind the keyboard and
I don't know how you could politicize that, but here we are. You know, so yeah, we're living in this time where it's just so toxic. Yeah. And it's toxic because we're not talking to each other. We're just online throwing darts.
Yeah.
You know,
to anybody who will listen or take a dart.
Yeah. Or you're in the echo chamber. Yeah, you're right. Like we're all just yelling the same thing.
I know.
Boy, are we going to learn and grow.
I know. There's innovation for you.
Well, and you know what too? Like, so in the paranormal, I've saw over time, right? I've been doing this a long time. Like, I remember when orbs were big, and eventually we were like, all right, let's learn how cameras work and learn that, you know, lens flare and things that can cause orbs. And I'm not saying it's never paranormal, but overwhelming percentage of the time it's probably not, right?
Right.
Let's just understand the equipment. And so orbs kind of went away. The talk about it went away. And then meanwhile, everybody was just sort of parroting the same thing that they heard on TV shows. And I was like, those TV shows are ripping off Harry Price, who wrote Confessions of a Ghost Hunter in the 1920s. And we really haven't evolved much in 100 years, you know, like it's still his ideas. And even then, like, he got his ideas from like psychic mediums and everything else. Like, and I'm not saying it's wrong. Maybe it's correct, but maybe it is wrong. And we shouldn't just keep repeating the same thing over and over again. Let's try different stuff. You know, let's bring what we do to the table, whatever that is. You know, I like research and history, you know, other people like the tech. Fine. Do what you do, you know, but let's try to chase down some different ideas.
And you need a happy medium of both. I mean, there has to be, you know, a give and take for both for sure.
Totally.
And, you know, the other thing that we fail to realize that we always think that we're so dynamic on this side of the lens. Why do we think that the paranormal side, the ethereal plane is not also very dynamic?
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it always baffles me that people forget that, you know, just because it was one thing before does not necessarily mean it's going to be the same thing the next time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's a human thing, right? So, I mean, I always try to imagine, it's called empathy, right? But imagine like, well, how would I be? How would I be if I was sort of in a space where I couldn't necessarily be seen or heard all the time, and people are poking around in the dark? What would I do? What would I say?
Sure.
Probably a lot of get outs. Right?
Yeah.
Right. You know, what are you doing?
I would be that one that would pick on him.
Oh, yeah.
Just because it would
Logan,
be fun.
Nicole, get out. Get out.
Do you remember?
Get off my lawn.
Yeah. Oh, I'd definitely be that.
Yeah.
Do you remember the movie Twilight Zone?
Of course, yeah.
Do you remember when he's like, I think it was Dan Aykroyd's character, where he's like, hey, want to see something scary? And he, like, the guy turns and he's like this horrible monster and scares. That would be me. 100% that would be me.
Yeah. Of course.
And
Beetlejuice, right? Like we
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We would just reenact it all over and over. Yeah, no, it's but I still love the subject, because you're asking really big questions. You know what I mean? You're asking like, what happens after we die, and what legacy will I leave, and what part of history are we still grappling with, and what does it mean, and how do I want to live my life? You know, how do I want to be remembered? Like all these really big things that we can talk about freely under the guise of paranormal and ghosts. Whereas if you do it under the guise of a religion, well, next thing you know, we're all drinking Kool-Aid and dying in a field in South America, and they're making documentaries about us.
That crazy guy.
Or we're getting on a spaceship and cutting off our testicles. Either way. I'm sticking to ghosts.
Yet.
You know what I mean?
Know.
Like I feel like I'm
with
ghosts here.
I'm good with ghosts.
Yeah, let's do the ghost thing. Let's try that.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. Let's see where this one goes. You know?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, I know our audience is going to want to know how to kind of get involved, and we're going to obviously put all the links in the show notes and stuff like that too. But how can they reach out to you? How do they get the Shadow Zine and kind of get involved with what you got going on?
Yeah, well, I'm always happy to correspond with other weirdos. The Shadow Zine is shadowzine.com. It's like magazine, but just zine. And then my website's my name, jeffbelanger.com, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Exploring Legends is my Instagram and Facebook, and Legend Tripping is my YouTube. And you can follow me, but I really don't know where I'm going, if I'm honest. But we can get lost together and maybe have a few laughs.
It's the journey. That's what counts.
For sure.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight. We had a blast.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
Hope to bring you back someday. And we'll talk about some more zine stuff and some retro stuff. So
sounds good.
But thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Hey, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Man, that was a lot of fun.
It was.
Yeah. First of all, if you hadn't gotten by now, he's just so much fun to talk to.
He is.
You know, he's definitely one of those guys where it doesn't matter how you feel, man. When you're in his orbit, it's like, yeah, all right. He pumps you up.
Exuberant energy.
He's exuberant. I like that. Exuberant.
Yeah, exuberant.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, guys, we really like this. It's it's exactly what we talked about. It's just little nuggets, and it's all about, this particular one is about the Bridgewater Triangle. And I know there's one coming from Richard Estep, and
is the second month.
Yeah, it's the second month coming up. Yeah, which we got on the way, but it's a lot of fun.
And I think it would be really good for the young, like maybe not super little kids, but like young teenagers. Because a lot of them are starting to get into the paranormal. They're wanting to go on investigations and learn a lot. So this would be perfect because their attention spans are not great.
They're used to this thing here.
That's why the TikTok is so popular. So this would be great because they could pick it up, read one story, set it down, come back to it later. And it's perfect for that.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I know that I would imagine is one of the things Jeff was really trying to hammer in, because it's just those nice little stories, and it's just great. And it's so awesome to get back to storytelling, and we're so happy that Jeff and Richard and all the people that he's going to have involved in it. It's just it's awesome. It's what we need.
Yeah, and I mean, even though this is a magazine, I love books.
Yeah,
love them. So I was so happy to see that they're putting it back in print.
Yes,
because I remember years ago when the Kindle, and the what was the Nook.
Yeah, the Nook
came out, and he was trying to convince me, get rid of your books, just get this, it's all electronic. And I fought him hard. I'm like, I don't want that. I like the feel, I like the look, I like holding a book in my hands, the smell of the book.
But then even I got, I started to like that too. I realized that we were losing it,
Right. And so I'm very happy to see this, and I came home from Missouri Paracon with the whole library, I swear.
Yeah, we did.
We bought many, many books.
Yes, we did.
From almost every single person that had them available for sale. So, but I got to add it to the Paranormal Library, and this was one of them.
That's awesome.
And we've already ordered the second edition. So, yeah, go out and get it. It's
Guys,
really, really cool.
It's not expensive. It's worth every dime. It's you could literally take this anywhere. It's not, it's not obstructive. It's not getting in the way of anything. It's perfect.
Great for an airplane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you fly a lot.
Okay. Well, I know what I'm taking to Ireland. Guys, seriously, jump on his website, pick it up. You're not going to be let down. It's a great time. But thanks a lot, guys. Let us know what you think. Jeff's great.
Reach out to
him. And well, other than that, guys, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.